Hi, I'm Juliana Whitney with Cann Strategy. Today we are at Tree of Life Dispensary in North Las Vegas, Nevada, speaking with Chris Vickers, the COO, about what it's like to get licensed, start up, and launch your first dispensaries. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to talk to you today since you guys are clearly shelves empty, just getting started, launching the company, and this is the first set of dispensaries that this ownership group has had together.
It is.
Correct?
Yeah, this is going to be brand new.
Okay, so you're Chief Operating Officer. Can you tell me a little bit about how you joined the team? Like, how did they find you when they have this license and then they have to step forward and go, who's gonna run this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been actually in the cannabis industry since about 2010, specifically here in Las Vegas. I came out in about 2015 and originally helped another operator kind of get established. Unfortunately, I kind of parted ways with those individuals around September of 2020, and then, was really kind of just taking some time to kind of figure out my next steps. Being that this industry is so small, I actually had one of my friends reach out to me. Her name was Jennifer Solis, and kind of talked to me a little bit about this opportunity that was presenting itself here in Las Vegas. So the opportunity itself was to kind of partner up with a new family-owned business whose kind of mindset was all around just giving back, which really struck me in kind of the right ways that this business should be approached. So after a few conversations, kind of and meeting the family a little bit more, I decided to kind of jump on board fully and join the group. And so right now it's been a lot of fun over the past year, just kind of building out and getting ready to open up these two brand new dispensaries in Las Vegas. And specifically, we're working on the one right now, which is going to be open in North Las Vegas, and then the second location, which will be opening up in about 3 to 4 months in the city of Las Vegas.
Okay, that's exciting.
Very.
Can you tell me a little bit about just finding your location? That is something I find a lot. The clients, that's like, where do we go? Where do we locate? What was that like for you guys?
Yeah, well, especially here in Las Vegas as well, the opportunity with us being able to open these dispensaries really came from the last round of licensing that Nevada handed out. So as you can imagine, as all of these licenses are being distributed, now you have all of these operators who are immediately dashing out there looking for property sites. So, luckily for us, I think, Florence and Guard have been looking for quite some time, looking in the different demographics, looking for, what's going to be the right area for us to kind of make that splash and have an impact. And so I would say after months and months, if not years of scouting for locations, they were finally able to solidify the two that we found. And of course, that comes down to all of the restrictions that Nevada puts in place that we have to abide by, and as well as just making sure that this location works best for us, and especially with keeping some of the nearby competitors within distance of us as well too.
What does working best for you mean? Like, were there specific demographic pieces you were looking for?
I think not necessarily I would say demographics, but I would just say again going back to how many dispensaries are kind of in the nearby location where we're setting up, and again maybe looking at the population and the annual income for those individuals that are kind of in the area are absolutely going to be some of the more pressing items when looking for locations. But again, as you can imagine, as locations start getting scooped up kind of left and right, it becomes a little bit more challenging to kind of find the perfect spot that I think every operator out there is looking for.
Yes, and then you have to plan the build out of the whole thing.
Correct.
What is that like? I know you worked with an architecture team here. They'd done some planning prior. Then what was it like to really refine what you wanted it to look like, given the buildings that you finally chose?
Yeah, building out a dispensary, I say, is a lot like counting to 10, right? There could be a lot of different ways to accomplish that, but really it comes down to what's going to work out best for yourself and the kind of the operations that you're putting into place. So what's very exciting is, with this space, this was an empty suite as it first started, and then kind of sitting down with the architect, sitting down with our contractor, and then just the team, also the owners, and figuring out, okay, what is the type of customer flow, what is the selection of products we would like to offer, and just overall the experience that we want to get across to those customers. What I like to look for being an operator are I like to say the 3 Ps, and that's setting up your process, your people, and your products. So that way, having something successfully set up with all 3 of those will really set you off on the right foot for a successful dispensary.
Great, 3 Ps.
3.
I love it. It's super simple.
Sorry.
From that point, I know, so there's so many pieces from that point, right? Like, you have to get approved by the state, by whatever board there is in any given state. Here it's the CCB. you've got to get your permits and all your things, and at the same time, figure out when to hire staff based on when you'll be opening. So what was that process like to kind of balance all of those pieces?
It's a very large timeline, yeah. So I would say, specifically that there's a lot of, town hall, city council meetings that we're having to attend. And again, going back to just strategically getting the building set up, right? So as far as the design and actually getting the construction done. So I would say, a lot of it's built in phases. So it's kind of course, just, getting across that phase until we move on to the next step. And it's so exciting because we're finally at the phase of now being able to bring on board the staff. So I know that's something that over the past few weeks they've been so excited about, is just getting the opportunity to finally get their feet inside the store and start kind of putting everything we've been talking about into action.
I love it. Can we discuss, so when I first started, I started at a dispensary as a just ground floor staff member. And I remember the process of being hired, you're so excited, and then there's just delays, which is kind of the nature of everything as you're starting up. So what are some key delays you would say as someone just starting a dispensary for the first time to look out for and just know this is normal, that these types of things fall behind the timeline a lot of times?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say just kind of no matter what going into the cannabis industry, I say you have to be like water, right? You have to be willing to adjust and flow to whatever's coming your way. So I would say more than anything, it's a lot of just the excitement I think that builds up within the staff of just being so ready to get into the store. So it's like, when can we come in? When can we come in? When, I think just for one, having a very strong communication with the team that you're coming on board with is extremely important. I think, whether things are going in the right direction or in the wrong direction, having that sound key communication with the team is extremely important. And I like to say this isn't the first time our opening's been delayed in the past. So what's been great for us is just, in the past, 88% of our employees that we've hired and then had delays in store opening have actually all decided to end up coming back on board with us. So I think when we're truly looking for hiring passionate individuals who are really doing this for a reason, I think for them it's, again, it goes back to the excitement and them willing to kind of find a change of pace from what they're normally doing on the day to day. And so they're willing to kind of be a little bit more patient. They're a little bit more understanding, I think, sometimes to the hiccups or things that can be thrown your way. And again, it's just making sure that you're not leaving the team in the dark at all, that we're making sure that we're giving them guidance as kind of we get updates on the go.
As you're choosing your team members, you said you have to choose ones that are doing it for the right reasons. What are those reasons, and how can you suss out if someone really is genuinely feeling a passion for the industry and is really connected to it and dedicated, especially given the crazy turnover rate? So you definitely want to hire so that they stay. What do you do in that process to find those people?
Yeah, for us, I would say, or for myself specifically, is, looking for candidates that are also willing to ask questions. I think finding candidates that, are asking you about what is the company's mission, what are your values, what are you trying to accomplish as a company? And also asking about their own potential, like, where do you see myself growing to over several years of being here at your establishment? So I think those would all be great questions to start, a basis to asking, just so you can understand kind of, okay, is this company somebody that I actually want to be on board with, for the long run? And then also just make sure that you're also setting yourself up for success. So, if any areas of opportunity present themselves, you can make sure that kind of you have one up against, some of the other candidates, and ensuring that your management and then also, the owners of the company understand kind of what your goals and objectives are for kind of being on board as a team member.
Great. And you as a company, you have benefits. I know a lot of dispensaries kind of start out without the benefits. That's definitely something staff members can look out for, and I think also companies can make sure they take into consideration when launching, right?
Absolutely.
Is that a big pull for your potential staff members?
Yeah, I would say that's, especially nowadays, that's a major priority for a lot of team members to come on board. Looking back again 10 years ago, getting payroll paid to you in cash, was a little different than nowadays when it's like we have a direct deposit available. But, I think as the stigma is changing, and we're starting to see cannabis become a little bit more acceptable, I think we're starting to see all of the major benefits almost at any other corporate business kind of be offered or available at some of these smaller type cannabis, establishments.
Yes, thank goodness. So when you are kind of choosing all of the companies to work with, not in terms of product, but in terms of your point of sale system and maybe your marketing company, that kind of thing. I know you probably have a slew of companies coming to you.
Really?
There's so many new companies in the industry. How do you decide this one is legitimate, these are the ones we'll work with?
Again, I think it goes back to each operator's kind of, individual way of kind of running their business. So, for us, referencing the 3Ps again, I think it goes back to kind of just referencing, okay, what systems are we going to put in place that is going to work best for our people, our processes, and then our products. So, especially nowadays as we're seeing, this become more of a norm, we're starting to see more and more competition come on board for a lot of these different software systems.
Exactly.
So, I think it's also great because it's also creating more competition amongst a lot of those competitors. So, no longer are we forced to be with the point of sale system that we no longer like and have to be on because there's nobody else available. Whereas now I think it's bringing more benefit to the light because we're able to have a little bit more options and then ensure that maybe some of these systems we're putting in place can be a little bit more customizable to specifically what we want here at our location.
Since you mentioned point of sale software,
Yes.
is bringing in product, choosing your product, who you've hired to choose your products and what their skills are and how you as a company decide what brands that you want to work with and what your mix of products will be. Is there data behind that? Is it linked to your location? Kind of what goes into that?
Yeah, well, with every demographic a dispensary opens is going to have a different type of clientele. So, especially being a brand new operator coming into this area, for us to start, I think it's a learning experience. So, I would love to have a really large selection of products, just for one, to make sure that any customer comes through our door, we have something available that they want. In time, and I think as we collect more data, then we'll kind of be able to smarten that up a little bit more and really kind of, to your point, understand, okay, well, what is it that a customer is looking for in this area?
Right.
What's driving customers to make a trip here? And then kind of going back to keeping an eye on our competitors, like what else is everyone in this area doing? So, that way we can always make sure that we have a one-up on a lot of those individuals. And then as far as the vendor goes, I think especially just with our mission and our cause here, with us being so willing to give so much of our profits back, I think it's just partnering up with a lot of the vendors who have the same mindsets.
Right.
A lot of dispensaries here in Las Vegas carry a lot of the same products from dispensary to dispensary. So that's something unique and different I like to challenge our team about is, how can we stand out against some or the rest of the competitors? And I think, the giving back aspect with us, giving back 70% of our profits is going to be huge here. And I think also getting creative and then getting the community on board with where those proceeds are going is just going to be a massive and have a huge attraction.
Yeah, so we didn't dive into that. I'd love to dive into that because that is such a beautiful thing. And I worked with you guys on licensing at the very start, and that was the coolest part. I was like, I don't think anyone else has ever written the story of a company that's going to donate 50 to 70% of their profits to local charities. That's unheard of. I think in business generally, let alone in this industry, and largely because this family, who I adore dearly, they're philanthropists, they give back. So just tell me more about what that looks like, how you feel about it, how your staff feels about it. What do you kind of see that turning into for the community?
Yeah, again, going back to our ownership, just Florence and Guard, we like to say are northern lights in the sky, where it's just with their passion and just their willingness to give. I'm really hoping it attracts not only the right staff, but also just the right customers to our facility. Where again, it's just all about here how we can do more. So what's phenomenal is the family already has created about 4 nonprofits that they've established themselves just here in the Las Vegas area. So for one, I think that's going to be our priority right off the bat. Is just how can we help those nonprofits to the best of our ability?
Right.
And then a lot of the conversations that we've been having, not only with the vendors and just a lot of individuals we've been now meeting in this industry, is just what else can we do? What ways can we raise more money, or maybe not even look at it from a monetary standpoint, but volunteer our own time? How can we get out there and actually really, give back to the community in all areas that we can? And so I think that's what's really exciting now is that we're starting to look at bringing products into store and have these conversations with vendors on sales and specials, is just looking at all the different outlets and kind of getting creative. Because to me, I'm like, that's the fun part of this, is like being able to really go home at the end of the night and know that we're doing something good, not only for the Las Vegas market, but also just where this company is. It's really promising and makes me feel really great at the end of the day. So
good. Like I got the feel good.
I love it.
When we do the licensing process for clients in any given state, there's always the community impact plan. And Tree of Life obviously has a community impact plan that will, exceed what we can really expect the general industry to have. However, I've seen a lot of companies develop plans that are either kind of just trying to get the points and they're not really that thought through, or they're just trying to feed to what the state has asked and therefore there's no real passion behind it. What would your tips be to say, here's how you would make that CSR plan better, your community impact better?
So yes, in regard to the community impact plan, for one, I would say, we see a lot of our competitors only giving back when it's around kind of the required holidays of the year, right? So it's like around that Thanksgiving, the Christmas time. There's only, I would say, about 3 or 4 times, maybe each quarter of the year, that we're seeing these other competitors kind of raise money and donate it back. So I would say, for one, challenging the business to do something each month, right? Yeah. Where it's like, now, instead of waiting till the end of the year or the beginning of the year, we're like, what can we do proactively? What are we doing right now in the moment? Consistency, yeah. So I would just say, really looking for those different outlets and just continuing to challenge yourself and not kind of just get caught up and content with, whatever you're doing and continuing to explore and look elsewhere.
With such a solid ethos as a company, you've got it outlined how you are going to impact the community, you've got your staff, you've done your licensing, you're getting your approvals, you've got your built out, all the things, and now you're prepared to launch. You're not that far from launching. What does that feel like, and how do you see that going? Like, are there familiar hiccups people should know about, and kind of how you iron those out, and what is it like when you have your first clients in the door?
It feels great. and I would say, to say that there's going to be no hiccups, oh my gosh, I would say I'm lying. We joke about it as a team where we say, even the way that this whole dispensary is laid out and set up right now, as soon as we open those on day one, everything's going to probably change completely different, right? So again, I think it's just, being able to adapt and adjust as needed. What I'm hoping for is not only a great experience inside of the store, but I think the really tale of success for us is just going to be how much we're able to give back to the local communities here. For us, coming down to it, it's just if we're not able to help out the Las Vegas or the Nevada market and kind of the giving back aspect, and I don't feel like we have done our due diligence and really succeeded as a company. So for us, I would say just making sure that that's front of mind and key, and just, again, looking at all different ways that we can continue to give back. By being able to donate back 70% of our profits successfully, I think is going to be the number one way that we see that success as an establishment.
And then once you prove that concept and that's really chugging along, do you foresee this company duplicating this model in other states?
I think that's still up for conversation, absolutely. I would say, for right now, we're absolutely just looking at the local market. But I would say, we're always open to a conversation. And I think, not only us, but hopefully we can be trendsetters for the future.
I would love that.
Yeah, where it's like, others can now kind of see what we're doing and then hopefully carry that going forward into some of the new territory that they're taking on.
Yeah, philanthropists nationwide could get on board with this model. It's a constantly generating donation model.
It would be huge.
How do you beat that, really? You can't.
It'd be massive.
I've decided you can't beat it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, letting us come in here, see the space, updating us, educating people about what it's really like to start in this industry, because I don't think that's something a lot of people get real insight into. And yeah, I'm just so grateful.
Thank you for everything. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.